Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, it looks as though the game might finally be up for President Buhari, as Nigerians are now demanding that he sings a new song. Competence, Mr. President, not integrity, the headline screams. It has been reported that President Muhammadu Buhari, following the euphoria of his re-election, has been making statements painting a picture of how his second tenure would unfold. One of the statements credited to the president was that only men and women of integrity would make his cabinet this time round. It is easy for me to understand where the president is coming from. The victory of the APC, which catapulted him to power in 2015, was predicated on change, which presupposed a departure from the old ways of doing things and a new dawn as espoused by the well-worn cliché. After his inauguration on May 2015, however, the long delay in naming his ministers had led to speculations as to the quality of persons who would populate his cabinet. Nigerians, in their numbers, gathered at different points in different cities, towns, and villages to debate this expected crop of young technocrats never seen or heard of in the corridors of power or in public office, who would mount the saddle and transform the nation for the better. But alas, when the president finally reeled out his ministerial list on Wednesday, November 11, 2015, 6 months after his swearing in, many were disappointed. There was a silent grumble across the land as the expected fresh, young and new faces were nowhere to be seen. Instead, the same old crop of politicians who had held sway in previous governments, men who had been accused of stealing from the public till in past administrations, persons of unsavory public persona, and others were trusted in the faces of Nigerians as drivers of the much vaunted change agenda. The opposition was quick to jump out with the "I told you so" argument, but Buhari and APC supporters also came up with a counter-argument that a tough, no-nonsense Buhari on the saddle, none of the appointees dare attempt anything untoward. This argument did not satisfy the opposition, which went further to dig up dossiers after dossiers of the misdemeanors and previous wrongdoings of some members of the president's cabinet to buttress its point. For months, the issue of governance was in abeyance as the integrity of some of the cabinet members was brought to question. This, in the long run, led to questions as to Mr. President's integrity. A man known for his frugal lifestyle, a life devoid of ostentation and covetousness, the president's supposed integrity was lampooned and impunged in the media as a result of the character of members of his cabinet. From indications, the above scenario must have hurt the president deeply in his private moments, and he must have wondered that his loyalty to those who helped him achieve his ambition after several traumatic attempts may have exposed him to ridicule and brought his well-manicured character to question. He must have had time to mull over the issue in the last 4 years and therefore possibly determined that the 2015 scenario must not repeat itself in 2019. So first, let's ask the question, what is integrity? According to the dictionary definition, it is the adherence to moral and ethical principles, soundness of moral character, and honesty. As a byproduct of their position or image, certain persons are expected to be people of integrity. In this category are members of the clergy, parents, teachers, and moral instructors. Events around the country and around the world, however, have given lie to the above supposition. The recent jailing of a cardinal for misdemeanor in Australia, the confession of adultery of a prominent Abuja-based pastor, and I think we all know who that is, Iginla, I should imagine. The sex for marks scandal leading to the jailing of a university don in Nigeria, and the several parental failures in the moral upbringing of their children are pointers to the fact that integrity is simply a matter of perception, as a position or an image has absolutely nothing to do with the inner person. It therefore becomes worrisome to see our president still caught up in this integrity bubble. Everywhere you look in our country, there is poverty, infrastructural decay, low productivity, unemployment, insurgency, and banditry, lack of innovation, and sundry challenges that requires competent hands to bring urgent interventions and solutions. The president must therefore come down to earth and acknowledge that he is presiding over a country that is home to the largest number of poor people in the world. He must also realize that pandering to higher ideals is good, but that a hungry man's ideals and integrity most often than not elude him when his stomach is empty. The president must close his ears to the rantings of sycophants who reel out unsustained statistics showing how he is the greatest president Nigeria has ever had. He must look beyond the voices of those surrounding him, cocooned in their sheltered life apparently sustained by public funds. He must look at the hungry faces of Nigerians as they surround his motorcade shouting, "Say Baba." He must hear the cries of men, women, and children in IDP camps inside their own country. He must hear the voices of Zamfara citizens daily deprived of their lives and properties by armed bandits. Same with southern Kaduna, where lives are being lost daily. He must see the footage of young Nigerians who would rather be slaves in Libya with the hope of getting to Europe than remain hopeless in their own country. The president should know that Nigerians need food on their table, regular electricity supply in their homes, medicines in the hospitals. Christians and Muslims must want to live together in peace and harmony and go about their lawful business unmolested. Nigerians no longer want to be kidnapped for ransom or robbed of their property by criminals. In fact, Nigerians want their country back. The integrity of the last 4 years has not brought solutions to the above situations. While we apologize to Mr. President for impinging and lampooning his integrity previously, we must remind him that a new tactic would not be out of place. He must realize that integrity is of secondary value to a hungry person who has no shelter. It follows, therefore, that what Nigeria needs now are men and women of competence, people who can get the job done, people who know what to do to stimulate the economy and get Nigeria bubbling again and put the smile back on our faces. For goodness sake, Mr. President, we do not need angels or saints in your cabinet. We need people who can get Nigeria working again. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The wool has finally fallen off the eyes of Nigerians. They're no longer fooled by this mundane and inane chant, and they are no longer buying into all this integrity nonsense that we have been hearing for the past 4 years. Competence now is the chant on the streets of Nigeria, and competence should have been the chant from the get-go. But now there's no hiding place. There's no 16 years of PDP anymore. Now you've had a good go at it, and by the time you complete this second term, that is if Atiku doesn't win in the courts, by the time he completes this second term, he would have had 8 years there. So there's absolutely no hiding place anymore. There's no reason for incompetence anymore. You are not new to the job. There's no PDP to blame anymore. So it's now down to you now, and competence is the chant on the street of Nigeria. And I echo that with my voice too. So I align my own voice to that voice that is calling for competence, because competence is really what we need. We don't really need people like Rotimi Amechi who has nothing to offer anything in place. We don't really need people like Babachir Lawal who has nothing to offer anything or anyone in place, or that customs guy, what's his name, something Ali. He is incompetent. We don't need this stream of incompetent people, incompetent rather people. We don't need this stream of incompetent people occupying places and slots just to take money. And stealing money is one thing, but then not being able to carry out the duty is another thing. So it's a double whammy. They are looting the country and they don't have the competence to do anything. So we're just losing out all the way through. So really, we don't really need any of these people, because in the whole of the Buhari cabinet, there's probably only one person that is doing maybe half a job, and that's Fashola, because he pretends as though he's a serious person doing serious things. That remains to be seen. But outside of him, you don't really see anyone else that is really showing anything that inspires confidence in you. So enough of the integrity, more of the competence. So competence now is the word of the day for the second term of this regime. So that's the clarion call now. Competence, competence, and more competence. So what are your thoughts on this new change of tactics in the Nigerian mindset, calling for competence now, not integrity? We have had enough now of the chasing people around with Black Marias and making noise about EFCC and whatnot. Go and get the job done, and get it done properly. That is really what the bottom line is. If the job is done properly, then nobody cares about anything else. Of course, we care about people doing things the right way, but really, the first port of call is competence, and that is what we want from this second term. So what says you? Conversations about competence in the comment section. But before we go have that conversation about competence in the comment section, click on the red subscribe button so it goes gray. Click on the bell button as well so you are notified as soon as I drop a new video. Once you've done both, join me now in this new chant in the comment section. Competence is the word of the day. Let's discuss it. So I'll leave you here. I'll meet you in the comment section. But here I say peace.